session 2, and the speaker of the session is Dr. Nadira Khatun, Bengali Films and Web Series. And the session will be chaired by Dr. Kaikya Nansen Laskar. I also request her to come here. And I would request Kainat Ghazal, PhD scholar, Institute of Language Studies and Research, Kolkata, to give a brief introduction of the speaker and the chair.
Thank you, sir. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Lashkar and Dr. Khan for the second session, which will be chaired by Dr. Kafia Ansar Lashkar. Dr. Lashkar has been teaching in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arya University, Kolkata since June 2016. She holds a PhD in Mass Communication and has published in several reputable outlets, including Routledge, Sage, Intellect, UGC Care, as well as peer-reviewed journals. Dr. Lashkar has co-authored a book on sexual violence and predatory journalism published by Routledge, and has co-edited a book on gender and popular visual culture from Routledge. Her forthcoming co-edited book on conflict and media, news discourses in India, is going to be published from Springer Nature in February 2025. Currently, she is serving as the head of Department Journalism and Mass Communication at Arya University. She is the International Liaison Officer for Ethnicity and Race in Communication Division of International Communication Association, Washington, D.C. for 2024-2025. She is also a board member of Talash Society, Kolkata. Her research focus is on gender, race, and minority representation in news, films, and television. She has already produced 2 doctoral research and is currently guiding 2 more scholars at Arya University. I also welcome our speaker, Dr. Nadira Khan, who will be speaking on politics of representation, Muslims in contemporary Bengali films and web series. Dr. Khan is Associate Professor at School of Communications, XIM University, Bhubaneswar, Odisha. She was a visiting assistant professor at McMaster University, Hamilton from January 2021 to January 2022. She has contributed to academic journals and edited volumes on Bollywood and Muslim identity. Her book, titled Post-Colonial Bollywood and Muslim Identity, Production, Representation and Reception, was released in August 2024 by the Oxford University Press. I welcome our chair and our speaker. I hand it over to ma'am to conduct the session.
She's extensively working on Muslim representation in Bollywood films and Bengali films. When we, especially who work on representation and politics of representation, especially of minorities, Muslims and other communities, we often face severe kind of backlashes as well as surveillance and some kind of barriers in putting our voice through. The reviews that we get often are so disheartening, we don't share them most of the time. We share only those which get published. But in the process, we receive all kinds of reviews for our publication and the research that we do, citing statements like, this is how impactful do you think it is? Why are you taking only these particular films and not films from Bangladesh or from Pakistan? Because once you compare your work with their representation, you will find that the representation of minorities in those content are also of similar nature. So this is a very complex process in negotiating and navigating our ways of putting our voice about this kind of representation studies. So I congratulate Nadira once more for picking this particular field and topic. So without taking much time, I will request Nadira to start her lecture. So we have, I think, 30 minutes and 5 minutes for the Q&A.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this talk, and especially the organizing team and Dr. Prashant. And before starting my discussion, as already about my book it is talked about. So, though I'm going to talk about representation of Bengali Muslims in Tollywood or Bengali cinema, but before starting, I would like to introduce my book in this learned and knowledgeable gathering in this academia.
So this is the book recently I have come up with, Post-Colonial Bollywood and Muslim Identity. And here I have looked at primarily the representation of Muslims from post-colonial period immediately after independence till 2020. And 70 years almost I have covered, and I have categorized the representation into 4 different genres: Muslim historical, Muslim social, though these two are already established genre, but afterwards I have categorized primarily 2 genres that which the films related to political science, or films which have political science which are released after 1990s, and I have termed that as Muslim political. And afterwards, in the contemporary age, there are certain kinds of new filmmaking and new types of Muslim representations which are happening after 2005. So that particular genre I have called or I have named as Muslim model. So this book is all about that. And now I will come back to my talk today, where I was contacted actually recently. Before starting my talk, I will narrate one incident which happened. I was interviewed by News Laundry and the News Minute recently, and where while talking about, and that interview was on my book. So while talking about the book, I just randomly I have spoken about Bengali cinema and Muslim representation. So there I just realized, and when I spoke about that Muslims were never got that much of space, screen space, where actually the host got really surprised that it is whether why it's happened like that, because audio filmmakers like Vidit Ray to Mrinal Sen, Tapan Sinha, all of them, I hardly find any Muslim representation. So it is easy to say that we have not seen much Muslim representation in the screen space of audio filmmakers. But before starting and before going into the discussion, I would like to give you a brief account why those and why they have not got, or they didn't get that much of screen presence. So I will give you a brief historical account, background. Thank you. So I have divided my talk into 6 different segments. First, I will start with Bhadralok hegemony in Bengal, a mute minority in the line of literature and cinematic space. So here, actually, this I have come up with an article 2 years back in 2022, and here this particular talk is inspired from that particular article. But unfortunately, that article actually didn't get that much of readership. And when I write on Bollywood, I find there are good number of people immediately the view we get from the article immediately gets a kind of instant attention. But when I wrote about Bengali cinema and Muslim representation and Muslim identity, I hardly find this particular article got that much of reception and readership. So that I got intrigued, and that's why I thought of in academia and academic discourse we should be talking about it. So therefore I took my inspiration of this particular talk from the article. So when we talk about Bhadralok hegemony in Bengal, a mute minority in the literature and cinematic space, so of course we should be talking about not only cinema or cinematic space, rather how cultural space, Bengal's cultural space was dominated by the Bhadralok, that is upper class, upper caste people, or that hegemony was prevalent in the colonial period. I will start with that historical account. Bengal's cultural space was always dominated by the Brahmanical narratives, and the people from other marginalized groups such as Dalits, tribals, and Muslims could not manage to have a voice in that elite cultural space. To substantiate this larger argument of this talk, first I would like to discuss a section to trace how existence of Muslims was neglected by the Bhadralok hegemony from the time of colonial period. American writer J.H. Broomfield refers to the Bengal Muslims on colonial Bengal as forgotten majorities. It is as cited by Mohar Ali. So the status and position of Indian Bengali Muslims were always unstable because of the religious complexities within the community and religious politics outside the community. scholar Amalendra Dey writes the Bengal in the colonial period, the process however started along with the rapidly changing socio-political scenario since the mid-18th century. Muslims could not easily accept the British rule and for a long time refused to take advantage of modern English education. It may be because of the so-called Indian Wahhabi movement and its impact on Bengali Muslims. Ultimately, the Hunter Commission was set up by the British to understand the grievances of Muslims, and reports suggested, and I quote Mohar Ali, some modifications of the state system of education to attract them and make them more suitable for the official employment, thereby weaning them away from the path of disloyalty. The lack of modern English education became one of the crucial reasons for invisibility of English-educated middle-class Bengali Muslims in the public sphere. In this context, Ramakrishna Mukherjee referred the 1871 census report of Bengal and noted Muslims form a very large majority of the cultivators of the ground and of the day laborers. Therefore, if you look back to the end of 19th century, the entire Bengali middle class was comprised of the intellectual Bengali Hindu Bhadralok who were actively involved in Bengal Renaissance politics. And the existence of Bengali Muslims was not recognized by this Bengali majoritarian Hindu Bhadralok community. Therefore, this exclusion was reflected in their cultural production as well, except in a few fragmented instances. So as they have never got that kind of cultural space, so later on in the cultural discourse, when we look at, there are writers, for example, Rabindranath Tagore's Ghare Baire and Gora posit critical debates on religion and politics. There is a visible absence of Muslims in both the novels. Tagore's Ghare Baire also deals with issues such as partition, nationalism and religion without showcasing Muslims directly. Gora mentions about Muslim farmers who revolt against the British rule. On the other hand, we have Tagore's other short stories like Kabuliwala, Khudito Pashan and Musalmani Golpo, which narrates the story of Muslim characters who are mostly non-Muslims, sometimes even non-Indians. In fact, Khudito Pashan mentions a Persian influenced palace dating back to the Mughal time. Ordinary Bengali Muslims of the working class or working and labor classes are there, and their sufferings are not reflected that much. Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay's Bolli Samaj and Mahesh Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, another star of these two actually mentions though Bengali Muslims. On the other hand, Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay's Bolli Samaj and Raj Singh and Anandamath, these deal with the issues of, just a second, I just got mixed up. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's another stalwart of Bengali literature, his novels such as Raj Singh, Anandamath and Sitaram deal with the issues of Hindu empowerment through empowering Muslims. In this case, Ranjana Das and Rajan Das points out one does notice a trend in his writings in construction of the Hindu as the self and Muslim as the other, mediated and defined by the notions of cultural differences. So most importantly, apart from that, also we have looked at Bengali Muslims are frequently entitled as Yavan and Nere. So Yavan means outsider and Nere, that means that's a kind of derogatory term for to mean inferior. So these two terms are used interchangeably, even Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's work and also later on post-colonial writer Sunil Gangotpadhyay's work. The practice of disregarding Bengali Muslims persisted till 20th century, and this was mirrored on Bengali film industry as well. The Bengal Hindu Bhadralok led Calcutta film industry and Hindu Bengali culture became a common narrative in the post and pre and post-colonial Tollywood industry or Bengali film industry. Bengali Muslims were never visible in Bengali film texts, as they remained completely invisible in the making of those texts because they didn't have the capacity to make those texts, or they couldn't invest money to make those texts. During the post-colonial period and the golden age of Bengali cinema, we have seen Satyajit Ray, Ritik Ghatak, Bimal Roy, Mrinal Sen, Tapan Sinha produce their best and noteworthy films, but we hardly have noticed or located any Muslim character in those films. If we look back to the history of Bengali cinema during the post-colonial period, Bengali Muslims barely shared the screen with Bengali Hindus, except in Kabuliwala. However, there are a few films such as Komal Gandhar, and which is directed by Ritik Ghatak, Ghare Baire by Satyajit Ray, and Babdaluddin Machi by Gautam Ghosh, which represent Muslims or issues related to Muslims because of the plot where set in the background of partition and narratives of the Muslims had to be there. As already mentioned, Bengali Muslims never managed to acquire a visible space in the Bengali film industry or in the visual texts. However, the representational scheme of Bengali Muslims had started changing in the last 5 years. If we look at not 5 years, at least last 6 to 7 years, mostly due to Bengal's altering socio-political scenario. Because at this moment, the kind of socio-political scenario before 2014, and similarly at this moment, the socio-political scenario is very different. So here I come to the next subtopic, that is imagined identity, Muslims in Indian Bengali films. So in this particular segment, I'm going to talk about how Muslims are represented as the other, and we have certain imagined identity for Muslims. As already Professor Rafat Ali has pointed out, the generational, the experience lived experience. So that's how I'm going to connect that, because when we talk about Muslims, we have a kind of framed mindset, or we have a kind of typical mindset, archetype mindset, that we have to fit in within that particular box. But of course, it's not always there, but rather we have the region we belong to, we have always followed the culture of that particular region. So to talk about this particular segment, in the last 5 years, Bengal's political scenario has been marked by the headline-grabbing controversial political incidents, when there is a question of justifying majoritarian supremacy by showcasing minorities as threatening and vicious. Automatically the issues of existence of Bengali Muslims cannot be non-existent any further. So therefore, the phenomena of not representing Bengali Muslims or allowing them screen space has undergone a shift recently. The presence of Bengali Muslims is now reasonably noticeable on the silver screen, but what is noticeable is that these characters are having negative connotations. Following the rhetoric of right-wing hyper-nationalism, Bengali filmmakers started chasing it on, or they have started following the Bollywood trope. So here I have discussed 4 different film texts and web series: Ashinagar, Zulfikar, Kabir, and also Salma, Romeo Juliet. Next segment here, I have discussed that the negative connotations. What are those negative connotations? Narratives of imagined others, underworld dons, terrorists, and religious fanatics. So before going into that, I would like to show you one clip. Then I will come back to this particular talk. Yeah, let's go to the next. Next slide. Yeah. No, not this. Next. Yeah. No, you have to click on that because it's not. Sound can you?
হবে না ওই স্পিকারটা ইয়েতে দাও ল্যাপটপে স্পিকার কোথায়
As we have noticed that the film might have shared the clip from film Kabir, and here we are primarily looking at the primary plot of the film, that is terrorism. And there are other films also, they have this kind of negative connotations. I'm going to talk about them further. So here, the major Muslim characters in these 4 films and 3 films and 1 web series I have spoken about. Arshinagar is Taib. He is the main protagonist who is actually antagonist. And Zulfikar is Zulfikar, Kabir's Yasmin Khatun, and also Talmar Romeo Juliet, that's Mustaq, are represented as hooligan and underworld don, a terrorist and a rioter, as per the contemporary trend in Bengali cinema. Yet it is interesting to know that there is hardly any film that are centered only on Muslim protagonists except Zulfikar, because rest all are having counterpart which is coming from other religious community. Arshinagar narrates the story of land mafia, and Aparna Sen is the director, who employs the primary antagonist as Taib Khan, who is portrayed as an archetypically dark Muslim character. He is characterized as cool-eyed, black-clad, angry young man who carries dangerous weapon and can kill a human being with a tiny knife. He is so efficient. And he is boastful of the same. On the other hand, we have Ranvijit. In the same film, the counterpart, the main protagonist or the hero of the film, Ranvijit, he is also a very efficient shooter who never misses his targets. Despite having that skill, he chooses to be passionate lover and kind human being who does not like to be involved in his father's corrupt business. The only time he lashes out is when Taib kills his friend Monty. Even he is hesitant to kill Taib in revenge. Taib is not only an aggressive killer, but a religious fanatic who cannot accept the interfaith relationship between Zulekha and Ranajit. Thus threatens Zulekha and tries to harm Ranajit. Zulfikar is the main central protagonist, portrays the story of Zulfikar Ahmed, a leading leader of an organization named the Syndicate. The influential organization deals with illegal commissioning, smuggling, and very frequently killing people to execute their operations. The trailer starts with, the audio?
This whole game is about the food chain. We all are a part of it. Keras orang puri, keras kawin, keras orang di dunia we land. When English, then the bloody snake is going to slither in and eat up the land. And at the very end will come the hawk flying in from the sky. वो सबको आगे लेके जाएगा और खा भी लेगा। আর মানুষ নিয়ে করছে এই এলাকা কলকাতার মধ্যে ছোট্ট একটা দেশ বেশ ওই এত সুবিধার পতাকাটা বাদ দিয়ে
So here, if we deconstruct this particular sequence, then the trailer starts with the shots of some cultural symbols associated with Kolkata's heritage, accompanying the shot of Howrah Bridge. And in the caption it is written, "In the land of bridge." Then later on we have seen just now a procession of Durga Puja is captioned, "In the land of Puja," and a shot of framed photograph of Rabindranath Tagore carries the caption, "In the land of Tagore." The visual that immediately follows this and the last one, we have seen in the photograph the poet being splattered and splashed with blood. And we are hearing the gunshot at the background. So through these sights and sounds, the director hints at how such a place as Kolkata, which is dipped in heritage and where people are proud of their cultural and religious inheritance, is also home for some criminals who happen to be Muslims, who threaten and disrupt Bengali heritage and culture, which we can easily interpret as Bengali Hindu culture. Then starts the voiceover of a police officer who has been recently transferred to a new posting and introducing the problem. The voiceover goes on to say the dock area consisting Kidilpur Meteorburg Garden Ridge is a small country inside the city of Kolkata. Yes, a country only without a national flag and a flag. The voiceover and associated visuals contain formulaic tropes which reinforce Islamic terrorism, fanaticism, conservatism, and also anti-nationalism and fundamentalism by depicting bloodshed, ghettoization, violence in Muharram processions, and also recital of Quran. So along with the trends of representing Muslims as underworld dons, there is a new development in Bengali films of portraying Muslims as terrorists. That we have seen that particular sequence and also the trial of the film Kabir. So there is this particular development talks about that and through Kabir we get to know the same old done to death theory that not all Muslims are terrorists, but on the other hand, the film shows that all terrorists are Muslims by symbolically associating Islam with individuals committing terrorist activities. Such as terrorist characters are always represented wearing beard and skull cap in the vicinity of the framed photographs of Arabic religious scripts, reciting Arabic prayers, and most interestingly tagging words such as jihad, Allah, in prayers before all the terrorist attacks. They start actually their prayer before all the terrorist attacks. In one of the concluding scenes of Kabir, when Indian Mujahideen's third in command, Abdul Rahim Tunda, is captured by the state law forces, he is shown reciting from Quran placed in front of him in the mission scene. So the film narrates the story of Yasmin Khatun, who is the co-passenger of DSP, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Altaf Kabir. And here, if we look at the terrorist is Muslim and also the state representative DSP is also Muslim, so therefore the whole idea of good Muslim and bad Muslims comes in. And the person who is challenging the state or status quo, they are termed as bad Muslim. On the other hand, the person who is going with the state and state ideology, they are termed as good Muslim, as theorized by Mehmood Mamdani. So the next theme, so the first slide. The next theme we will be going to talk about narratives of acquiring public space, clever, intelligent representatives versus violent, stupid, anti-national. So of course we get to know from the theme itself that who are clever, intelligent representative or state representative, on the other hand who are violent and stupid, anti-national. To talk about, Bengali film individualizes Muslim identity through their fragmented social life. All Muslim characters in films and web series analyzed here either enter the public sphere to carry out illegal activities such as smuggling, terrorism, or are depicted as without any agency in the public space. The most interesting point to note here is that in both the cases, Muslims are represented as being different than Hindus. Sometimes, because of their involvement in illegal activities, they are termed as anti-national. At the other times, they are designated foreigners. Designated as foreigners as they fail to find acceptance in normative Hindu Bengali popular culture. In the films and series discussed in the paper or in this particular talk, Hindus are shown as representative of the state, and on the contrary, Muslims are shown as defying the state entity. In Zulfikar, the three most important characters, who they are Zulfikar Ahmed, of course, and apart from that, Bashir Khan and Markaz Ali, they represent themselves as active members of the syndicate. Zulfikar Ahmed is the leading man of the organization, Bashir Khan is the second in command, and Markaz Ali is the muscle power of that particular organization. The syndicate also has link to Islamic terrorist organization like Lashkar-e-Taiba. The syndicate is not only a place for people who are involved in antisocial, thus anti-state activities, but it also accommodates a few immoral government bureaucrats as partner. Because we have seen in the film Lalu Das, and also Tribhuvan Gupta. These two are the state representative. Who are they? They are custom officer, Kaushik Sinha, port trust officer, Tribhuvan Gupta, and also policeman, that is Lalgu Das. And who are they? All state representatives. So here, if we if we can argue, the most interesting point to note is that all the corrupt government officials are having Hindu names, which logically deduce them the Hindu religious identity. It may be argued that it is acceptable to be involved in illegal, unsocial activities if you are a member of a majoritarian religious group, such as an individual will never be termed as anti-national as he or she is representative of the state. But the person with minority, especially Islamic identity, can be easily termed as anti-national because of his or her association with illegal dealings, such as involvement in the anti-state activities like smuggling, unlawful commissioning, and also terrorism. Then we will be talking about the next sub-point, that is narratives of cultural baggage, Bengalis or non-Bengalis. To represent Bengali Muslims as outsider and migrants, language is used very skillfully in their on-screen portrayals. The language and dialect are always twisted for the Bengali Muslim characters on the screen, and mixture of, and what kind of language they use? Mixture of Urdu, Hindi and Bengali. Most importantly, along with if we are terming them or if we are mixing this kind of mixed language, then automatically you are terming them, they are not part of the indigenous community of that particular land. There is a huge influence of Muslim social genre in Arshinagar and Zulfikar in these two films. An overwhelming proportion of Urdu-speaking population actually, in terms of when I talk about Muslim social, that is there are certain characteristics of Muslim socials we have seen in Bollywood cinema, and these two films, they have taken, there are certain elements from those, from Bollywood film. So what are those? One is language, the sartorial choices, and of course architecture and other elements. And when we talk about particularly the politics of language, here I would like to give you an account. An overwhelming proportion of Urdu-speaking population lives in the 6 states: Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Jharkhand. 85.8%, and Bengal is not one of them. Census of India data of 2021 mentions that in West Bengal there are 1.7 million people who speak Urdu as their mother tongue out of total population of 20.2 million. Though Urdu has become synonymous with Indian Muslims, it is not the mother tongue of the majority of the Muslims in West Bengal as well as in India. So the nexus between Muslim, terrorist and Arabic has been crudely demonstrated. That is the next thing we need to look at in these texts. There are a strange connection between terrorist activities and the Urdu, sometimes Arabic language. In Kabir, all the terrorists speak fluent Arabic. Another striking aspects of portrayal of Muslims in Bengali cinema is the sartorial display of the Muslim characters. Filmmakers make very distinct sartorial choices for the Muslim characters. Most of the time the choices are, for example, Zulfikar's Karisma Ahmed and Arshinagar's Najma and Zulekha, and also Kabir's Yasmin Khatun are shown dressed in salwar kameez or burqa. A majority of the Bengali middle class Muslim women wear the sari, but ignoring the fact Muslim films continue to portray Muslim women in Muslim, so-called quote-unquote Muslim attire. The sari is considered a Hindu cultural icon because of its connection to the Hindu goddess. We are familiar with the image of sari-clad Bharat Mata, who is sitting on a lion and holding a saffron flag. That image was hugely popularized and used to stoke nationalist feelings during the independence struggle. So Bengali films, when they are depicting a certain kind of sartorial choices for the Bengali Muslim women, the existential crisis in connection to her geopolitical identity by not making her wear saris, and in this case, Nazia Hussain and Sabah Hussain points out Muslim women's choice of rejecting the sari becomes representative of rejecting the nation. So as soon as you are rejecting the sari, and which is coinciding with the Bharat Mata's image, you are rejecting the even your nationalist identity. So it is striking to note that Arshinagar has depicted religion based on the division of color, because we have seen here again another interesting fact that Arshinagar, because of the time I didn't add, actually there are certain clips. So Arshinagar has a very distinct color polarization where you are showing Muslim characters, they are in dark black attire, for example Taib's character. So here Muslim characters are often seen in black clothes, especially Taib's character. On the other hand, Ronajit is represented in bright color. Apart from language and sartorial display, the architecture and interior of Muslim households should be reconstructed for our analysis. So the mise-en-scene, if you carefully look at in these films, that indicates to the audience that the house belongs to people who are not indigenous to the land. Another most important thing to highlight here is that cinematography, especially lighting, is done very carefully to showcase a stark distinction between Hindu and Muslim households. In most of the scenes in both Arshinagar and Zulfikar, we have seen that low-key lighting is used for the Muslim households, but when we have seen the Hindu households, high-key lighting is used, that is bright, warm tone which is used. Next, we are going to talk about, that is, narratives of Har. How much time do I have? Okay, I need just 5 minutes probably. Muslim women in these 4 selected films, Arshinagar's Zulekha Khan, Zulfikar's Karishma Ahmed, and Kabir's Yasmin Khatun, hardly have any agency to be in the public space. When we talk about narratives of her, primarily I have looked at the Muslim women's representation and how helpless they are, and how regressively, or how they are living in a regressive situation. So in all these characters in these the films and the series I'm discussing here, all the female characters, they are living without any agency in the public space, public sphere or public space. Zulekha and Karishma are the victims of oppression by their family members, and Arshinagar's Zulekha Khan is a young, timid, traditional girl barely exposed to modern world. Her father, Sabir Khan, arranges her marriage with a man double her age. There are times when she is terrorized, physically abused by even her cousin Taib Khan, who cannot consent to the relationship between Ranajit and Zulekha. Yet it becomes much more uncivilized and barbaric when Taib indirectly expressed his illicit romantic feelings for Zulekha. In the opposite side, we have Ranajit, gorgeous, kind-hearted, liberated, and passionate lover, who acts as a breath of fresh air in the suffocating environment that Zulekha inhabits, and becomes her savior from an oppressive situation. Because when you are, and that's the savior syndrome trope, always we have looked at, and that's in the contemporary discourse also, when the discussion and the whole argument and the debates which are going on triple talaq, and when people are talking about that you have to come from outside, you have to save Muslim women, and who are victimizing these women, their own people, and either their husband, their brother, or their family members. So that's what in the film itself also we have looked at. In this context, Zulekha's family members act as oppressor, and her Hindu boyfriend is her savior or protector from those despots. Similarly, Zulfikar's Karishma Ahmed is lonely, neglected wife whose life is melancholic, much like her gloomy, almost destroyed Mahal. So her husband is busy being Rani Talapatra, a modern, smart, beautiful lady. Without showing annoyance, Karishma, his wife, accepts Zulfikar's illicit relationship with Rani and refuge in drugs. In this context, it can be argued that the practice of polygamy in Islam is normalized through Karisma's character, because it is again another discourse we have heard multiple times. So if we look at through these 5 different boundaries and the analysis, the kind of deconstruction I have done, through that, in conclusion, I can point out that the Muslim representation either can be categorized in 2 segments, primary segments. One, they are villainized, or the vilification of their characters are done. On the other hand, they are exoticized. Either they are exotic or they are villain. So you will hardly find, though there are exceptions, because in the last year we have seen the film like Loki Chile, and that is directed by Kaushik Ganguly, and it talks about the current politics and political scenario and the repercussions on Muslim community because of the contemporary politics. But again, there also, if you look at carefully, though that representation was very sensitive towards the contemporary politics, but at the same time, without talking about the victimization or the vilification, you will hardly find any character who are going to office every day morning and coming back in the evening at 5 o'clock. You can't have a regular, ordinary citizen who is having their ordinary life about Muslim representation. So by saying that, I would like to conclude. I would love to take your questions and suggestions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadira. It was a wonderful presentation, I would say. You have touched upon many points, as it is also a very close topic of my studies also. So we have seen that over the years there have been certain periodization of Islamophobia in Indian fictional content, mainly television and films. So we have seen, till 1990s it was more of exoticization, a kind of the Orientalist trope that was followed in Hollywood. And Bollywood always copies whatever is there in Hollywood, and what I see that in Bengali films, they copy whatever is shown in Bollywood. So, and then post 1990s till 2014, we have seen somewhat Islamophobia was getting, it was paving its inroads in Bollywood films. Again, taking refuge to the Hollywood narratives. Here and after 2014, it may be related to the change in ruling dispensation at the center, we have seen a peak Islamophobia, and this is like the categorization we have done in our recent paper. And we see that in your films, the analysis that you have shown, we find that, or you mentioned about symbolic annihilation that took place in the Bhadralok literature, like the invisibilization, complete invisibilization of Muslim characters. And in the films that you analyzed, we see there were representation of Muslims, but a questionable representation, which are placed binary. They are like complete binary opposites of the Hindu character, who is a pro-government, the establishment. Another very important thing that I like to mention. You mentioned about the tropes, the representational tropes that we find, lighting sequences, colors, the use of attire, and the use of language. These are also somewhat borrowed from the Bollywood. It's like heavily borrowed. The film, the Zulfikar you mentioned, in this first, what would I say, the trailer that they released, they actually mentioned a country within a country, and there was, azan and all played. But my colleague, he wrote extensively on it, and Srijit Mukherjee had a fight over internet, Twitter fight was there, and he actually changed the initial trailer, he changed it. So I would mention my colleague Dr. Mohammad Riaz there. But it has not stopped. And I find it even in the very recent Tekka, there is a film, it's a very recently released Tekka. There also, I think the character, the villain, has a Muslim name, if I'm not wrong. Why do they do it? Like, we cannot question repeatedly because the same tropes are being represented again and again. So is there some kind of, do you feel that is there some kind of, unfailed attempt, like every time they show vilified Muslim, every time they vilify it or annihilate, there would be some kind of revenue generation, because we also need to understand that rightist both sides, like the fundamentalist thoughts of both the sides actually feed on each other. They provide fodder to each other and they feed on each other. So on these lines, if you have something to say.
Thank you so much, and thanks for asking the question, because we can question, but what are the possible reasons we need to reflect on. Yesterday, I will tell two incidents here. First, I will start with why that vilification is happening or exoticization is happening. On that, I think until and unless there are more people who are joining from the Muslim community, joining in the film industry, you will not be getting that kind of insider's point of view. Because even you have noticed that in Bollywood these days we are telling that there are a lot of films which are coming out on women empowerment. But again, Zoya Akhtar is one of them who is again propagating the whole idea of women empowerment through her film. And there are many more. But why that is happening? Because again, there are many women who are joining in the film industry as scriptwriter and also as a film director. So therefore, they can tell their stories in a much more sensitive way. That is one thing. I think still in the Bengali film industry, like Bollywood, you might be asking that then why Bollywood it is happening. I'm coming to that in the next part. But in Bengali cinema, I think there are less representation, or in terms of production part, in filmmaking part, there are very few Bengali Muslims who have joined in the filmmaking. And secondly, yesterday I visited my hometown, that is Bankura, and I don't stay here in Bengal for a long time, and currently I'm staying in Bhubaneswar for my work. So I gifted this book to my Baba, so my father, and he was delighted after getting the book, because for a long time he was telling that why are you not giving me the book. So he has gone through the introduction part, and he told that why Muslims are represented in a stereotyped way. Why do you think? Because we have Shah Rukh Khan, we have Amir Khan, and we have all these Khans, and even we Muslims are holding the better position at this moment in Bollywood cinema. So even that's what I have discussed in my book, that it's not all about that who is involved. Of course it matters, but it doesn't only matter, because ultimately film industry functions, and the main motto of the film industry is profit making. So if you are not making that much of profit, if you are making very sensitive film, for example, when I teach film in my class, I always give the example of Chapak, the biggest stars of Bollywood cinema, but the film did disaster. So, and also the storyline is good, and it has kind of sensitive representation of acid attack, but the film did not do well. It's not only about the good concept or great concept, rather whether you are adding all the formulaic tropes or not, that also matters. And therefore, you have seen recently there are a lot of films, primarily after 2014, a lot of films which are coming out on these primary tropes, and the tropes which will work in the market. So I think there are, and another important thing while coming to this for this talk, I actually traveled from Bankura to here in the morning. So I was talking with my partner, and who is short right now, and he was telling that why do you think that these films are, and this similar kind of discussion we were having, but at the same time, I find it's only about profit making, the industry functions. On the other hand, the discussion just now I was talking about, the Bajrangi Bhaijaan. It's a kind of film which did extremely well, but they have not used any kind of those typical tropes. Though they have used the other kinds of tropes, but not those typical vilification of characters, Muslim characters, terrorism, these and that. Rather, Pakistan is shown in a very sensitive way in that film, but the film did wonderful business. So it is who has directed the film? Kabir Khan, right? So again, you have to understand that it works two ways. One, who is making the film, of course, the representation of the same community. Even while talking about news laundering, if you Sudipto Mandal, who interviewed me, he told that even if you look at the Dalit representation is not done in a sensitive way. For example, Salim Langre Pe Madro, that's one of the sensitive films, but again, if you look at Dalit representation is not done that in a very sensitive way. But ultimately, why? Because again, you don't have Dalit filmmakers who are just actively involved in filmmaking. So it works, I think, in two ways, according to me. Thanks.
Anybody from the audience would like to ask a question?
It's not a question. I have an observation actually. Okay. While talking about these issues, you have just mentioned about the Bollywood and how the box office works actually. And I was thinking that this storytelling, there is a trope also, because all the movies that you have mentioned, Zulfikar, Arshinagar, these are all adaptations, great adaptations of Shakespeare's plays, you know that. So from Bollywood also, we can connect this because in Bollywood we also have the adaptation like Haidar, Maqbool, and looking at the names also, I was thinking, is it possible that it is also a strategy to a kind of a strategy? It could be, you can say that for the directors to making the business, because the films Maqbool, Haidar, these are coming in 2005, maybe in 2014 Haidar, and after that, because you have also mentioned how Bengali films, they are trying to somehow copying the kind of a thing from the Bollywood. So you have mentioned language also, ma'am have also mentioned the thing, the like that trope. And I was thinking that is there a connection also that they are also taking the thing, but adaptation doesn't mean the thing, because if we look at Shakespeare as a dramatist, you have also mentioned the women question. We have the characters and we know that there is agency in the play, but looking at the adaptation is not there. So yeah, so that's an observation.
Yeah. So you want
If you could shed more light on this, that is it possible that there is a connection on this business strategy and all?
Definitely. If you look at again, first of all, the contextualization of these the Shakespeare plays and your contextualizations are very different, because these films, the recent films which are contextualized in the recent contemporary socio-political scenario they are based on. On the other hand, it can't be in that particular era. So that is one thing when you are contextualizing in a different era altogether. So you have to put the nuances of the contemporary time. So that is one thing. And second thing is that one important point what you have mentioned, Vishal Bharadwaj's Maqbool, or for that matter Haidar. So these films, if you look at, they are much more sensitive in terms of representation. And in terms of community or gender for that matter, in any sense, even when in Haidar, Kashmir is represented in a much more sensitive way. But I don't know, probably Tollywood or Bengali cinema very blindly following the most popular tropes. And on the other hand, if we look at Vishal Bharadwaj had a kind of filmmaking stylistic format. And I think he looks at more of an art and stylistic format rather than business. Here, I think the film I have discussed, Sridhar Mukherjee's primarily Zulfikar and also Kabir, Aniket Chattopadhyay. So these two films, out of even Talmar, Romeo and Juliet, these three, they have primarily looked at business rather than art. On the other hand, if you look at Aparna Sen, though there are, we can critique, but the film is much more sensitive in terms of representing communities, gender, and other things.
Thank you, Nadia. You talk about the need for Muslim filmmakers coming out from Bengal. My question is, why is not that happening? What do you think as a researcher? This is my first question. My second question is that few months back when Animal, the movie was released, a question was made to the director that why are you presenting the Muslims in a stereotypical way. His response was that when films show the Hindus in negative characters, they do not complain about Hindu phobia or something like that. So what would be your response to this kind of, you know, response by the director? I mean, why there cannot be a critique of polygamy or triple talaq? I mean, why it is a problem? They will say. What would be your response to that?
Okay. First thing is, I will just first I will start with your second question. That what's the problem with that kind of representation when, and it is better to critique and to highlight these issues. So I think it's wonderful. Of course, we should criticize ourselves for our the backwardness and other things. But at the same time, when you are representing 99% or 95% those, and then it becomes like that typical type of representations are prevalent. So if you are representing regular ordinary Muslims, at the same time you are representing something backwardness and other things, then definitely it neutralizes. You are representing both the sides, right? But if you are showing for 95% the only one side, that means in people's perception you are creating an imagination, right? So that is I think somewhere it is little problematic.
The way you are critiquing.
Yeah, because you are not showing the other side at all. You are not showing the regular ordinary citizen. On the other hand, you are only showing the critical part of it. That is the problem. Yeah, of course, the way you have pointed out, there are a lot of criticism within the other majoritarian community. It's been shown and people are not pointing out on that and people are not critical about that. Because you are seeing ordinary Hindu citizens who are regular, ordinary, going to office and coming back. They have simple, very ordinary life. But on the other hand, you can't be only showing the one side of it, right? That I think that is the main problem, because if you look at the book by Jack Shaheen, he has analyzed 100 films, Hollywood films, and there, out of 100, he has noticed that even in Hollywood, I think 95% film, he has noticed that they are stereotyped. They have stereotyped Arab Muslims. So that's what the whole argument is. When you are stereotyping 95% of it, then 5% it doesn't matter. Like Lokhi Chele will not come out because you are already stereotyped so much. So people's imagination, you are creating one particular set imagination. That is one thing. And your first question, here I would like to quote that while taking Javed Akhtar's interview for my book, I have interviewed him. He told that culture comes at the end. First, people will think about food, shelter, and other basic essentials. Then people will go for culture. So as I have just pointed out that Muslims, an historical account I have given, as Muslims didn't have the historically they didn't have modern education. Modern, that means always we connect that to Western, right? Modern is Western, equated to. So and the employability is less. So as employability in formal sector it is less, then you are struggling for more period of time. But recently, if you look at again, there are so many actors who have joined in the film industry, Tollywood, like Rijwan, or there are 2-3 more people, actually male actors who are acting. So gradually people have gone to that stage. Probably they are trying to reach the cultural position as well. They are not limiting themselves within the basic necessities.
Making things
Yeah. I have not come across much.
If I may add to that, sorry, I'll just take 1 minute. If I may add, I went to the Kolkata International Film Festival, and the students of the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute have made this short film called Behrupio. It's by a Muslim director, Moinul Ali Siddiq or something, if I'm not wrong. So that shows the Muslim community who is a Behrupio, belongs from the Behrupio community, who are generations of Behrupias from a Rajasthani village. But towards the very end of the film, we don't know that that's a Muslim family. In the end, there's only a 2 to 3 second clip of the girl who is praying the namaz, and that's when we come to know that okay, this was a Muslim community. And there are many stereotypical tropes that have been broken. So yeah, that's one of those, and I think yeah.
Thanks for adding, because I am not there for a long time in Bengal, so I don't know what are the recent
So
things
these
which are
these are non-mainstream ones.
these are outliers
Oh,
actually.
exactly.
So, I would thank Nadia once again. We have taken an extended time, sir. Actually, we have extended the time that was given to us. So, I'll conclude the session. Thank you everyone for.
Thank you, Dr. Nadia Patil, for your detailed, engaging, and insightful lecture on representation of Muslim in Bengali cinema. The last Bengali film I watched that is not represented Muslim negatively, that is Onno Bhubon. So after that, I did not see that much. So thank you for your extraordinary lecture. And I would also like to thank Dr. Paik here, Ansar Lasko, for chairing us.